All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Big Doug and Carmi Show. Please like, subscribe, and follow along on YouTube so you guys can catch all the great content, including today's content, our Commanders Film Room for Year 2. Guys, I'm joined by NFL analyst Mark Bullock, PFF's Nick Ackridge, and former Redskin linebacker Robert Henson. How you guys doing today, fellas?
Pretty good.
Good, man. Locked in.
Cool. Glad to hear it, man. Glad to hear you guys. So, fellas, we're here to do our weekly review for the Commanders film. Unfortunately, the Commanders fell to the Buccaneers 37-20. It was a tough loss from Washington. We have a lot of film to kind of sift through and break it all down today. Robert, thank you for being a special guest. I want to throw it to you first. Did you have a chance to watch the game, Robert? Did you see the game? And first of all, your big takeaway, like what are your initial takeaways from the game? Like what were some of the deficits, some of the things you liked about the game?
Yeah, definitely had a chance to watch the game. Biggest takeaways from the game, defensively, the communication just wasn't there. It seems like Tampa used a lot of motion to disrupt our communication and assignments. So, and when we press receivers, obviously they got a good core receivers, but anytime we pressed anybody, it resulted in a first down or a catch. So we didn't bowl well in the press, and then pass rush just couldn't finish, man. Baker just made a lot of plays with his legs. He extended plays with his legs, so that killed us. And then the run defense, the leverages used for the run defense were just not where you want it to be. Obviously, Dan Quinn's first game. Don't want to be overly critical, but just from that standpoint, just as a former defensive player and seeing the coverages and the blown coverages and the missed assignments, man, that was the most glaring thing to me. And then the other takeaway on the offensive side was just really Jaden Daniels' poise. I don't think he made any super highlight real, worthy plays, but again, the no turnover stood out to me the biggest. So I got to commend him for that. The offensive line is what we thought it would be. Human turnstiles, but so just a few of my big takeaways from that game. All in all, it's one game. Don't want to dump on them.
Absolutely. I agree with that for sure. So definitely, we're going to watch the film today and break it down, and we're definitely going to dip into Robert's expertise today. And if you guys are in the chat, feel free to jump in and ask some questions. I agree with that. I think we put some good pressure on Baker Mayfield. He had a great game, guys. He walked away. He was elusive. He was making some big plays. We'll see if that actually was a problem on the defense. It was a great play by Baker Mayfield. We'll kind of walk through that step by step. Before we get to our defense, I want to throw it over to Mark. Mark, I know you're breaking down the offense. This whole season is going to be Jaden Daniels and whether he's successful or not and whether he blends with Cliff Kingsbury. So week one, we lost the game, but, as Robert kind of mentioned, Jaden did show some poise. What were your initial thoughts on Jaden so far, week one?
Yeah, I mean, coming out of the game just after it happened when we'd only watched the TV broadcast, I was more negative than I am now, having got a chance to watch the All-22. When you get to see, how things actually played out, I'm a little bit more optimistic. And I thought Jaden overall, I thought he was pretty solid. The big test that a Todd Bowles defense presents to you is how you handle the blitzes and the pressure packages that he puts together that attack protection schemes so well. And I thought he did a really good job handling that. And obviously, a big knock on him coming out of college was this pressure to sack ratio stat that everyone talks about. And, he only got sacked twice. And, and neither of them I really put on him. And we'll get into that later. So I thought he handled those pressure packages well. No turnovers, only 2 sacks. Generally did a good job of identifying stuff and handling it. So and staying calm under pressure. So that is the big tick box ticked for him from this game. Obviously, the offense needs to do a better job than what they did, but there were a few missed opportunities. Obviously, they missed a couple of field goals, and so if you add on those missed field goals, and if Jaden hits one of those shots to McLaurin down the field, then suddenly you've got a 30-point game, and it's not so much of an issue. But you can do that for a lot of teams in every game. So you can't always go with but this and but that. So there's still stuff to work on. But overall, for me, the big takeaway was how Jaden handled the pressure packages that Todd Bowles is renowned for, and we'll get into that when we look at the offense.
Absolutely. And we always have to consider the Commanders are a growing team. We're a rebuilding team. We have a brand new roster, new head coach, new GM. There's a lot to develop. Their personality hasn't developed yet. We're going to see how things grow. If a trend happens, after that concern will potentially pop up, but see how things go. Nick, it's going to be a great fit. Great individual to start off with defense first. Robert talked about press communication, some breakdowns in the secondary. Is that also what you thought?
I could not understand anything you were saying.
Yeah. That's why you're nodding. Like, okay, cool.
I was like, I don't know. Someone was muffled.
No, let me say that one more time. So basically, in regard to this, you're going to transition to the defense with the film in a moment. Robert talked about communication breakdowns in the secondary, having some poor communication. Is that something you agree with as well?
Yeah, no, he was spot on. Yeah, I mean, it was tough all around. It was a tough watch. Again, it is week one, so I'm not overly negative about it, and it's a complete shift in defensive philosophy from last year, where Rivera and Del Rio are a lot more kind of too high, keep things in front of them, whereas Dan Quinn is not. It's single high. He sends blitzes a lot, somewhat exotic, and he's gonna trust you to play man. He's gonna trust you kind of on an island sometimes, and communication was definitely lacking, but I'm more kind of, anxious to kind of see the next couple games and not really kind of put all of the blame on this one game.
All right, so jump on into it. I'm going to pull up the film right now. Maybe the Buccaneers weren't a great matchup for the Commanders week one. We'll kind of look at how things go. I'm going to hit the music, and Nick, it's on you whenever you're ready, man.
Yeah, so I wanted to show the preseason clips first because it was a problem in the preseason as well. It's something I kind of noticed all the time. Robert pointed out whenever motion was presented, they struggled with communication. They struggled with kind of passing stuff off, and you can see it here. You've got the single high look. It's cover three, and once that motion is presented, and Miami does these kind of exit motions different than anyone else in the league, and it's always going to cause problems. But in cover three here, there's nobody taking this wheel route here from 81. Going up here, you got a deep third here, curl flat. He could carry the seam. I'm not 100% on their rules there. But again, no communication. The guys left wide open. Preseason, most of these guys aren't even playing or on the team, but it was kind of a consistent thing that happened throughout the preseason. Same thing here. This time you've got cover three and it's a zone pressure. So, instead of dropping off 7, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys rushing. You've got 3 out here in coverage, 3 deep. So obviously there's more holes in the coverage. And you're expecting pressure to get home. Still, no one is kind of carrying that exit motion, that wheel route up here at the top. And you see 2 guys trying to figure out communication. I mean, you never want to see 2 dudes make 1, 2, 3 different pivots on defense to try to figure out who they're covering. Again, preseason not taken advantage of. But yeah, it was a common thing. Same thing here again. And it was something that the Bucs clearly picked up on. From watching just the preseason action, you have the same sort of thing here. Is a little bit of a different motion here, same kind of route though. And again, you've got 2 guys down here at the bottom of the screen, confused on who's taking what. And that happened a lot in preseason. And then it obviously showed up in the regular season. So,
hey, Robert, can you educate us real quick? So for one, are you seeing the same thing that Nick is seeing? And then 2, what's the issue there? Like, how do you improve communication? What's the process? And what can we do to improve that potentially moving forward?
Well, typically when you as a linebacker, you want to alert something right away. You didn't really see the guys communicating that much at the beginning of the play. So that tells me that you kind of don't know what to expect. So it's really not much communication. Then as a linebacker, just from that perspective, even on this play, as you take a few steps up, it only takes a couple steps to get that read. Quarterback's throwing hot right now. There's no need to run up. And then from a leverage perspective, right, you always play to your leverage. It's cover 3 here. The outside guy, I'm not sure who's at the top of the screen, who's running with the motion, right? So you got inside leverage, and you got a guy outside of you. So we always talk about swing deep of whatever player. So typically the corner is going to be swing deep at number 1. Well, with that motion, he became the new number 1. And as that slot player right there, you would want to take swing deep at number 2, who is the guy right in front of you. So really the biggest issue right there was no communication with those guys. And 24 looked lost and confused. I mean, even while this motion is happening, you should slightly turn your head and be communicating as that motion happens.
Yeah, I mean, nailed it. I mean, look, you can see the second the motion happens, usually you see guys communicating some sort of hand signal, something to talk about it. 24 is completely lost. Hands go, palms up, never a great look. And yeah, but that was preseason. Bucks were kind of aware of it, and they took advantage of it. Again, just a little tiny motion here from Chris Godwin. Kind of gives Baker the clues here, tells him everything he needs to know, gets kind of Sanders still to kind of, show his hand, show him he's blitzing here off this edge. He points it out. Gets the line slid that way. And again, now there's communicating. Now we're kind of figuring it out, but it's a little bit too late. And you got St. Just here, and I believe this is Quan Martin up here. Both of them kind of struggling. Who's taking the seam? Who's taking the out? And they're both kind of starting to take the seam. You can see kind of right here, the second Quan Martin gets away with a bit of a hold here. He's thinking he should take the out. He's a little bit confused. Wraps his arm around Mike Evans here. Kind of easy pitch and catch for Baker here. And again,
if I could just jump in for a second.
100%.
There's no reason for Quan to attack the route.
Yeah.
You got Martin right here who's showing in the area, right? So Quan has no reason to attack the route. If he doesn't attack the route, then it obviously it would clear it up a little bit more for your corner. But your corner's completely lost. I mean, he's inside leverage.
Yep.
So, gentlemen, you guys educate me. So, is it a cover 2 look? Or is it dropping into a cover 1? Is Quan Martin supposed to be dropping back for overhang, but he's leaping forward? Is that what's happening there?
No,
he's stepping up at the further dropping back.
It's cover 3, so it's one of those zone pressures. It's one of those zone pressures that they have, and it's what Quinn does a lot. So a lot of his looks they look a lot like man coverage, but there's a lot of kind of zone elements to it. So Sanders still here is blitzing. He was always blitzing the whole way. And then as this kind of develops, you've got St. Just into a deep third. Quan Martin's coming down. He's going to play kind of this curl flat area, hold defender, curl flat, deep third, kind of deep middle. That's sort of the structure of it. I'm not 100% on their rules just yet because it's only week 1. But, kind of typically some teams ask this kind of curl guy to carry that seam, especially in cover 3 because the seam is kind of a cover 3 beater. So sometimes you want him to carry that. But again, I'm not sure because, you got 2 guys kind of not on the same page here. And yeah, it just kind of happened a lot.
Got it.
All right, next play. This is different. We'll skip this one because it's not cover 3. We'll get back to that one later. That one's not cover 3. Here it is. All right. So once again, you kind of have this kind of blitz shown here from the edge. Baker cans it, points out the blitz. We're adjusting. Showing 2 high now. Rotate to single high. Flip the blitz. This time Sanders still coming off this other edge. And again, you've got kind of this same problem down here. St. Just, and I believe it's Martin again. These 2 kind of confused on who's picking up this pretty much same sort of concept, except this time Godwin sits it down. But you got 2 guys confused here. And at this point, St. Just is beat and gone. So it looked bad, and it could have been a lot worse. There was a lot more out there that they could have kind of taken advantage of. But again, it's just there's no communication here. And you don't know. I'm not really sure what St. Just is doing. If they're kind of reading this and it's man coverage and they're kind of reading in out here, or he needs to kind of keep dropping. But either way, there's no communication. You get a wide open Mike Evans, not seen, which is understandable. Baker's looking the other side. So, but yeah, another kind of bust there.
So in this case, your safety could help you out, right? I know he's trying to show 2. And back out of there and get in the middle of the field. But his hips 100% should be to speed. You got Mike Evans and Godwin on the same side.
Yeah.
You should 100%, your alarm bell should be going up. This is the side.
And you've got three threats over here compared to just the 2 over here again. He's got to be flipping, getting out there. Yeah, it's just kind of off everywhere. I think that was the last cover 3 one.
And Robert, that's a general rule. I mean, it's kind of logical, right? If there's more speed on one side, more talent on the other side, you kind of shade that side as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a lot last year. Like football is very kind of tough to understand at times, but
Numbers.
The core principle is numbers and leverage. Like it's just you want more guys at one point, and you want them in the right leverage, and it's just numbers and leverage, and that's kind of what it all boils down to. But same kind of thing here. They're showing too high. Emotions coming again, and it messes with kind of communication. This time it's Sanders still and Martin. Martin's coming down here from that safety look, and you got two guys here that, again, don't know who's taking that seam, and that's a problem. This turns into a corner out, and it ends up in that big touchdown.
Yeah, so this was a big play. Obviously, it broke the game wide open. So let's kind of break it down step by step. What officially happened here, and who was at fault, in your opinion? Either one of you guys.
I think it's on Quan, but again, I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
Again, sometimes you would kind of want Sanders still to kind of take the seam up, but again, they've played it different every single time now because no one's on the same page. So I don't really know who's at fault here. But that would be my kind of guess.
If your middle of the field safety again opens his hips right now and runs to speed, he's got a better chance of making a play on this ball. And in cover 3, for whatever reason, Quan Martin is sprinting ahead 5 yards or so, stopping his momentum only to redirect to go back where he came from. You should slow play that more and then drive on it. So if they do throw anything short, you have the opportunity to tackle it. And if he tackles anything right where 88 is, I'm not sure down the distance, but it's maybe a yard to go for first down or so.
It's 3rd and 7, I think.
Literally, yeah. If he doesn't attack that and force them to, if he shows force right away and gives them the completion to 88, it's a 4th and 1. But instead, for whatever reason, he attacks. But again, your middle field safety has to open his hips right away. I'm not sure this just cross step, back pedal. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I guess the question for you, is this like a really complex concept offensively? It's kind of a spacing concept with the over the top, like a little, out route on the slot. Is this really complex, or what do you guys think in regard to potentially fixing this? What do you think about that?
Anytime you get kind of switch releases and you're dealing with kind of zone match principles, it's gonna cause problems.
Yeah. Okay.
In the NFL, I don't think this is something you should struggle on 4 or 5 times in a game. Maybe one time it's gonna get picked up and you can, figure it out from there. But yeah, anytime you switch release stuff like this and you're dealing with zone match, you then have to kind of, you have to know what your rules are, and you got to know who's next to you, what his rules are, and you got to trust each other. And if you don't trust each other, then you kind of get this sort of thing where you got two guys kind of going back and forth, and then you're both in a bad spot. I mean, because Baker could pick either one. He could pick the 40-yard touchdown, or he could pick the nice, easy dump ball for the first down here. And so, yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's like the switch. It's basically just switch release is tough. It's tough to deal with zone match, and it's too kind of early to say who's 100% wrong here because I haven't seen enough of it. I should probably go back to the Dan Quinn Cowboys film to kind of see what their rules are. But yeah, it can get tough. But in the NFL, this is something you should be able to pick up on.
So you're 100% right. The switches definitely get more complex in zone coverage. If you rewind it and you look at 16, he initially motions to become the new number 2, and then is 88's outside of him, then becomes the new number 2, and then 16 is right back to your number 2. So it's all over the place. The only thing that can help you here is pressure.
Yeah, and kind of a new thing in the NFL, and I don't know how new it is, but these kind of long vertical releases kind of mess with, again, your rules. And usually this guy's going to take first guy inside, he's going to take first guy outside over here, and when you have these two guys both pressing at you like that, it causes more communication problems, and you don't know it. You're 5-7 yards deep in your route. You don't know if he's breaking in, if he's breaking out.
Yeah, it's complex.
So these vertical stems, switch releases, they're definitely tough to cover. I think that was the last of the cover 3. Yeah, so we can go back to kind of like the too high stuff where again, this is more of like the Rivera stuff where you're playing that too high, but kind of mugged up here. Look, showing pressure, they're going to drop off of it just on one side here. And what this looks like to me is there's a bunch of different names for it. Cover 6, quarter, half, whatever you want to call it, where you've got safety rolling over the top. He's going to play kind of your 2 deep look. He'll stay in the flat. You got these two guys in quarters look, which looks to kind of be more of a match kind of thing here. But yeah, kind of cover 6 pressure, zone pressure, I haven't seen very much, which would be kind of interesting. But yeah, again, you've got this time it's St. Juice, and I don't think I know who that is. I think that's Sanders still again. But again, you've got these two guys confused on who's taking this out, who's taking the seam. Bunch of pointing, no one's on the right page. And again, it could have been a lot worse than it actually was, and you got guys so just a lot of pointing after the fact and not a lot of pointing during. And again, not 100% sure here on the rules. Cover 4 kind of zone pressure. Some guys I talked to thought that this is a cover 2 kind of look, and St. Juice is kind of backing off just to play the sticks. I don't think so. But yeah, I think my guess is this is on Sanders, so he's got to take him deep, but again, not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, Sanders, you're spot on. Sanders still has to continue to take the deeper guy. The one thing that could help too is and I know they run a dig backside, but if Bobby Wagner pushes closer to the inside guy, it'll clean it up a little bit more. Yeah, especially for Quan Martin, he'd be able to drive more. Instead, Bobby stays in the middle of the field, and Quan drives on Mike Evans and leaves the number 16 wide open. So I'd be interested in seeing or trying to figure out exactly. It does look like a cover 6, but it's kind of a hybrid look.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely kind of want to go back and look at some of the Cowboys stuff more in depth, kind of see what their rules are here. But if it is like that kind of quarters look, usually, again, you don't want Sanders being so aggressive here, and he should be taking this deep. But yeah, just a lot of questions on a lot of different looks. This one,
I'm sorry,
a little bit of communication.
One more observation. I apologize. So just one more observation. At some point in the game, just in my mind, I thought we tried to get too cute with stuff, with the disguises, with the bluffs. At some point, you just got to go back to basics, especially if you're getting cooked on switch routes and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think the problem was Baker was kind of figuring it out early on, and they tried to kind of get a little bit more, throw a little bit more at him. He was still kind of picking it up. So, it kind of speaks that at some point you do just kind of have to trust the guys out on the field to do their job. And so, yes, some of the communication issues is coaching, but you do still need to, they can't go out there and do it for you. So this one's just kind of being a little bit more nitpicky here, kind of communication issues. Again, showing single high, they're going to drop to just your classic cover 2 look, 2 deep safeties, flat defender, hook curl, hole, hook curl. Usually on this one, especially when it's second and 15 here, you want your flat defender kind of pushing back a little bit, kind of closing these holes here. And Forbes kind of gets stuck here a little bit on this curl here. Not sure if he's taking this. And then Baker's got a nice shot into the cover 2 hole for a nice
great throw. Hey, good throw. Wide open though too.
Yep, it was just not great everywhere. I think I got one more play. Yep. So last one I have. This one they're kind of still showing a cover 2 look here. Drop off into like a Tampa 2 coverage. So again, cover 2 here where you still have your deep half players. This time, pole player is going to run the pole, what they call it in Tampa coverage. He's going to kind of take anything up this seam here. But on this play, we're kind of looking at, I think this is Quan Martin here again, and just kind of the footwork and what he's looking at. Kind of give him a little bit benefit of a doubt here because he's reading Baker and sees that he's looking towards this side of the field. But typically when you're playing cover 2, you don't really want to close your body to the field like this. You kind of need to keep it open. And if Baker kind of looks that off, you can sort of see we've got, again, 15, 16, whoever it is, kind of run it open. And Quan's never going to be able to flip his hips to get that. So this one ends up in a not sack, and Baker scrambles for more. But
that's a great
idea. It
idea.
could have been a lot worse than it actually was.
It seems like communication and body positioning were definitely a problem all throughout the game. So I definitely see that.
Yep.
Nick, one thing I know Robert, you had something to chime into as well. I'm curious about the pass rush. Like, I don't know if you have any film on the pass rush or general overall thoughts of the pass rush. Was it pretty effective? Were they not having gap integrity in regard to blitzing Mayfield? Like, why was he getting so elusive here?
Yeah, I mean, again, at some point you just got to tackle him. I mean,
yeah,
I thought they were getting pressure. They were kind of consistently back there getting pressure. They just couldn't finish the play. And, at some point, that's not really even gap integrity. That's just like you've got a quarterback wrapped up here. And as Jonathan Allen here, Jonathan Allen on Baker Mayfield, John Allen should win that 99 times out of 100. Baker gets out of it. Third down turns into a first down. So, yeah, I think it was you just got to finish plays. I think they were back there. They just got to finish.
And Robert, I interrupted you before. You want to say something about the play?
Yeah, so with Quan flipping his hips to where Baker's looking, you're never going to make that play. So, like, that's literally 30, 40 yards away from you. Focus on your area and what you got to do. And the second portion of this is, you're absolutely right about the pass rush. If your guy up top, the defensive end up top, if he retraces, you're past the quarterback. Rule number 1, never rush past the quarterback. So if you retrace your steps and climb back up the pocket as he's climbing the pocket, that's a sack right there. So they just look like, again, they're up front, they weren't on the same page. And then credit to Baker for getting out of some tight situations and making stuff.
Hey, Robert, we keep hearing that over the years that the linemen are not on the same page. What does that mean if they are on the same page? Just kind of working in tandem and kind of closing the gaps, or what are we seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's week 1, so these are things that you work on. You stay after practice. You talk about as plays happen. Just memories come to mind of Andre Carter and Big Griff, like just saying, "Hey, look, I only want to sack. I'm going to knock this guy off you and just Carter come around and make it happen." Right. So I showed my age right there, but anyway, so
classic.
But again, those are the conversations that need to happen during the game, during the play. And I think that's something that fans don't really pick up on. As this play is running, we're communicating the whole time. Like, hey, I got this guy inside, 14-14. Like, that's me. Like, so you're communicating. Hey, I'm a pick. I got you. Or if you run a Tex-X or one of those stunts up front and you don't successfully get the pick, and then you rush the passer straight up. So I mean, those are things that just, again, will come with time. Again, I don't want to be overly critical of these guys. I did think anytime we went to a wide 9 and with a bluff look, we did get instant pressure. We made plays. So you got your wide 9s here. The only difference is when we did get consistent pressure, your tackle was actually in a 5. So you had your linebacker walked up, and then we would get pressure off the edge and make plays. But you got your front 4 doing something different, then you got your back 7 doing something different. You're going to get hit every time.
Yeah, and I think these next couple games are kind of a big test for the defense in general to kind of see if it's not going to be the same old. And, last years past, you didn't really kind of see as much kind of discipline on that defensive line. And sometimes their kind of talent took over and sometimes make great plays. Sometimes, they're out of gaps, out of position and whatnot. But I think these next couple games are massive for, kind of just learning experience. And usually early on from what I've seen, I don't know if this is just a Rivera and Del Rio thing, but usually those first couple weeks, it's pretty rough with communication and it's pretty rough with kind of what you're expecting the other guy to do. And it does get kind of fixed a little bit later on in the year. Last year was a completely different story. That was just a disaster. But, in the previous years, they did get it fixed by like week 4, week 5, which, at that point it's a little too late in the season, but it was kind of fixed.
So typically your defense is on a faster time frame of being fixed than your offense. Offenses don't catch fire till around week 4, week 5, week 6. your defense should be on the same page around week 2, week 3. That way, once your offense does get going, you're holding people under 21 points. You got a better chance of winning games. I will also give them credit, though. Mm-hmm. So I know we're doing a lot of nitpicking right now, and we do that as fans. But I want to give them credit. Dan Quinn did a phenomenal job just from putting a lot of looks on film. So the team we play next week has a lot to review on alignments, stances, formations, anything like that. So I will give them credit from that standpoint.
Yeah, Robert, I was going to ask you, we have been nitpicking. We kind of critical of the play. I'm just kind of curious, besides the different looks, did any players stand out that was a positive for you, or scheme or look that you kind of thought was a positive for Dan Quinn on defense?
Man, that's going to be tough. The main players that I watched for this week, honestly, I wanted to see how Sanders still held up in the slot. I thought
I think we lost him for a little bit there. Yeah, but I guess Nick, I think Sanders
got receivers and got winning.
Oh, he's back.
There you go. Hey, Robert, we lost you for a second. You talking about Sanders, so you froze for a moment. What do you say after that?
Yeah, sorry. So I was saying I thought Sanders still. I was watching him. I thought he got bullied a lot. I don't know if it was just because of bigger receivers or what, but he didn't look as effective or as confident as I thought he would. I really wanted to watch Bobby Wagner too. More importantly, as a middle linebacker, the leader of that defense. I really wanted to watch Wagner. I thought he looked 30. He looked 34, 35. I mean, there were times where he just completely disappeared. So
that's kind of how it was with Bobby Wagner last year, a little bit. Where last year he was always going to be in the right spot. Like, he's not making mistakes. It's Bobby Wagner. He knows exactly where he's supposed to be. But you can kind of see the age catching up to him. So I think the big thing for him is just making sure that everyone's in the right spot and he's in the right spot. And obviously, new defense, so that's going to take a little bit more time. But I kind of noticed the same thing.
Yeah, and I think Louisville did stand out in certain situations, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's a psycho in the best way possible.
I love that description. It's fantastic. Nick, are you done? Can you transition to offense? Are you good?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it, man. That was awesome. Let's throw it over to Mark. We're going to look at our offense and Jaden Daniels, and we'll see how this all plays out.
Yeah, let's get to the fun stuff. Who cares about defense, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It only win championships, so
exactly. Great response.
Yeah, so I wanted to start with some positives with Jaden and kind of like I talked about at the start, where I thought he was a guy that he did a really good job of dealing with the pressure that Todd Bowles threw at him, and that was kind of the big thing going into the game. Is Todd Bowles is known for sending lots of blitzes, and then dialing up all these different pressure packages, and it can be tough to deal with. So I thought I would show some examples of how well Daniels dealt with that. So we'll start here. This is the 3rd and 6 play that ended up getting called back for a penalty, but we'll get to that point. You can see Bucks have just about everyone up on the line of scrimmage. It's a cover 0 look. Everyone, they're sending the house, and Washington's in an empty set. And they've got this is Brian Robinson down here, tight end, and the McCaffrey stacked up here, 2 receivers on the outside. And so you're getting the house sent at you. That's a big pressure. The Bucks actually have a bit of a coverage bust here. So they have it in 2 spots. Basically, these 2 guys kind of have a communication issue like we just talked about, where they both kind of stick on Ertz running, I think it's Ertz running in the hook, and neither of them pick up McCaffrey working out to the flat. So that one's not the important one. The important one here is the Bucks should probably have either this linebacker, or this. I think this is a defensive back, a safety, peeling off to pick up Robinson working to the flat. None of them peel off; they all blitz. So in theory, this makes it very simple for Jaden Daniels, because he knows he's going to have Brian Robinson working to the flat here. But you'll see from the end zone angle, it's not quite so simple, because you've got a linebacker running right up the A gap straight in your face, and you've got an unblocked defender coming off the edge as well. So you've got to deal with that pressure, and you've got to make sure you can get this ball to Brian Robinson. He does deal with that pressure, gets the ball to Brian Robinson, and then you get the nice little running catch down the field afterwards. And Zacchaeus unfortunately gets a little block in the back penalty, which is marginal. I guess it is in the back, but it looked marginal at the time, and that negates it. But I thought it was a nice job, and you'll see again here, you get this linebacker coming right up the A gap. You also get this guy coming free off the edge. So it is simple in that he knows Brian Robinson's going to be free out here, but it's not simple in that you've got a 250-pound human being charging down on you right up the middle of the field, and you've got to, stand there, make that throw with not just this guy unblocked, but also this guy coming unblocked off the edge as well. So he does a nice job getting that throw away, getting it to Robinson and letting him go and make some plays. So that was 3rd and 6. That got called back because of that flag. Very next play, Bucks bring another blitz, and this one's not quite cover 0, but it's not too dissimilar. They've again got a load of guys up on the line of scrimmage, 2 linebackers and a double mug front. What they're going to do is actually drop the 2 defensive ends or the 2 edge rushers back into coverage and replace them with this defensive back is going to join the rush. So you're going to get a 5-man rush, and they're trying to overload the middle of the offensive line, where typically you'd have guys fanning outside and they'd open up a hole in the middle. That's what they're hoping to do. On the outside here, they've got a little smash concept with I think this is Zach Ertz out here running a quick in, and you've got Zacchaeus running a corner out. And so what you see here is Daniels does a nice job. Again, you get that rusher coming up here, and Daniels immediately is working to his right side. You can see that first he's got this guy blitzing, second that he's got a defensive end dropping off into coverage. So he knows when you get a blitzer, that often the best place to throw is over the blitz, because there's going to be somewhere vacant. And especially in this situation, you've got a linebacker or a defensive end, some sort of edge rusher dropping into coverage to try to cover a receiver and a tight end. So that's where he goes straight away. Again, you'll see it in the end zone angle where it looks like you're going to have a free rusher. He does a nice job not panicking. And the thing I like most about this play is, even though he's getting this blitz coming at him, he has the wherewithal to see that he's got this smash concept. And typically in a smash concept, what you're looking to get is the outside corner caught between the 2 routes, and whether he bites up to take the underneath thing or sinks back to take away the deep ball. Now here, the corner is deep enough to take away this out route from Zacchaeus, but Daniels can see that his leverage and his hips are facing in the middle of the field and ready to run up the seam, assuming that Zacchaeus is going up the seam. So based on that leverage, Daniels knows by the time he flips his hips and gets back outside, he can get that ball out to Zacchaeus and beat him outside. So not only is he dealing with this pressure and recognizing where he needs to go, he's also understanding and attacking the leverage of the corner, which I think is a really nice trait. Again, so he's making this throw, he's begun his delivery, and it's, again, based on this guy's leverage, and he gets that ball out there. And on the TV copy, I thought this was just a miss. On this angle, and specifically the next angle, it's a drop. And so, again, you'll see here, you've got that stop corner or nickel defender coming up and joining the rush, and you've got this linebacker peeling off. Nice pickup initially from Eckler. But you're going to have the defender looping inside here, and you see Jaden Daniels. This starts to fall apart as well. 2 guys kind of in his face, not phased, still makes that read off that leverage. Pretty nice ball, hits him in the hands, and he drops it.
You go back to the sideline cam. Zacchaeus, I think it's this play. He slips a little bit out of the break. Or he doesn't slip. He's kind of like you see how he kind of stops there, kind of at the last second. Yeah. Which is kind of what makes it in front some more. So yeah, I kind of agree with you that I thought that was a good pass.
So that was just 2 plays back to back, both third down plays, both big pressure packages that were sent at him. He handled them really well, and made good throws, and unfortunately didn't get any rewards for either one because of one, a penalty, and then a drop. Not a good series for Zacchaeus, but a good one for Daniels, and one that you can build on looking forward. So when they brought some blitzes, they didn't always have a pass open for him, but he dealt really nicely with the pressure, and we'll get into the scrambles in a minute, but this is one of them. But the ability that mobility that he has to avoid pressure is a really nice trait to have, and you see it shine through here. So this is quite a nice blitz from the Bucks, where they have safety Antoine Winfield kind of walked up on the line of scrimmage, and it kind of looks like he might be blitzing. Typically, you would think the linebacker's going to cover the running back, and maybe Winfield's going to come off the edge. And they kind of add on to that by having the defensive end stunt inside. So this is a nice blitz to kind of you've got Brandon Coleman here at left tackle, and you'll see it on the end zone angle. It's a confusing blitz for him to sort out. So you've got this slot fade concept, which anyone that's watched Jaden Daniels should be familiar with. That's something
Absolutely.
that he lived on in college, and it's a nice concept, but he unfortunately doesn't really get a chance to get to that. So you'll see here, Winfield steps forward like he is going to blitz. Coleman kind of fans out towards him, assuming that he is, but Winfield is actually just covering Eckler out of the backfield. The defensive end stunts inside, which again leads Coleman to thinking, I've got Winfield. And what happens is the linebacker kind of loops around the defensive end and then comes up the middle. And Coleman now realizes, oh, actually, he's just covering, and I need to pick up this linebacker, but that's a big gap to try to make up. Can't quite get there. Jaden Daniels, aware of it, and just makes a nice move to make a guy miss and turn what should have been a sack into a 16-yard play. We'll talk about the forward roll dive in a minute, but you'll see here again that it's a nice blitz to attack a rookie left tackle, because it really looks like Winfield's blitzing, especially as he kind of steps forward to cover Eckler initially. So you can see why he falls for this. He fans out and he thinks, I've got to pick this up. And then by the time he recognizes, oh crap, I'm in trouble here, I need to get back inside. It's a bit too late, and the linebacker comes up. But Jaden Daniels, having the mobility he has, he's just so aware of it, and nice easy slide step, and I'm out and I'm gone, and then don't really know how to get down. But I at least appreciate that he's not doing what he would do in college, which was try to make a guy miss and take a big hit. At least he's trying to get down. So
the one positive I'm taking away with the early film so far is he's composed, man. He seems like he's played a lot of college games. It doesn't seem too fast for him. He's looking to throw. Like the common national perception, if you look at the box scores, that he was running a lot. I thought the running was more of a reflection of him being blitzed and the offensive line kind of break it down. He had to react and get upfield in regard to that. I think he was looking to throw, and I was impressed by that, from my opinion. Do you agree with that, Mark, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think coming out of the game, I can see why people thought he was doing that kind of stereotypical one read and run type stuff. It really wasn't that. He was scrambling when he had to, but you'll see it in a minute. He did his best to stay in the pocket and deliver throws when he could, and then when he exhausted all his options, he would run. And there were a few plays, and we'll get to those in a minute, where he did miss some opportunities to throw when he scrambled, but for the most part, he did a good job. So if we move on here, we'll talk a little bit more about those scrambles. So this is one that I think a few people brought up, that they thought that this was a negative on him. I felt it was a good play. It was another scramble. It's third down, and what they're trying to do is run. To me, it looks like the classic quick seam, or I think defensive players would call this Zampese, probably from the Ernie Zampese era. So you've got this shallow cross from the outside receiver. You got Zach Ertz motioning across, and I think what he's meant to do is kind of stutter here and break inside into this vacated space with linebackers or whatever hole defender gets dragged across the middle of the field. What he actually does is sit this down. So I don't know whether this is meant to be actually an option route and he has the chance to break it back out. I'm not 100% sure exactly what Clip has him do here, but that's how I would typically see this kind of concept run. And on this backside here, you've got a curl from McLaurin and a wheel from McCaffrey, but we're working this side of the field on third down. We want to get that easy completion and move the chains. So again, we got the Bucs all up on the line of scrimmage showing a blitz look. They don't quite bring everyone. They drop out one guy, but they do bring a lot. And we'll see from the end zone angle, Eckler does a nice job here initially. But what they do manage to do is they wall off De'Ami Brown. He just can't get over the middle of the field. He gets picked up by that linebacker. The safety's driving on him. So De'Ami Brown's out. And that's kind of killing this play, because typically that's where you'd want Brown to be getting across the middle, taking these guys with him and creating the space right where he is for Zach Ertz to break into. Now, because he's caught there's no real space for Ertz to break into. So I think Jaden Daniels is hoping for Ertz to see this and just keep it vertical, or at least keep it in that seam. Ertz actually sits it down, which doesn't really help anyone because you have this other linebacker peeling off and sitting into this zone. So Jaden Daniels gets to here, and you can see he begins his throwing motion thinking, I believe, that Ertz should be keeping that up in the seam, and he's going to fit that in that window there. But because he sits it down, that's not open. Obviously, De'Ami Brown's taken away. And you'll see from the end zone angle in a minute, this blitz that Eckler did a nice job picking up initially looks to him like it's pressure coming. So instead of coming to this backside thing, you'll see him here. He pulls the ball down. You'll see it better. We'll go to the end zone angle, but you can see this guy gets tripped up again, but he looks like he's getting up and about to pressure him. So Daniels takes off running. And, maybe at this point he could keep his head up and see that McLaurin is beat his guy and turning down the field. But at this point, he's already feeling that pressure and wanting to get away from it. So he's thinking more, I need to run.
Is it third down?
It is third down. So you're just thinking, get that first down.
Yeah, first and second down. First and second down, I'd like to see him chuck that up. But
yeah, for sure.
Third down, I 100% understand getting the first down.
So you'll see from this angle, that's a real nice cut block from Eckler initially, and that guy's on the floor. So for the purpose of what this play is meant to be, this ball's meant to be out really quick to Zach Ertz, and you can see as he begins to gets to the top of his drop and he begins his throwing motion, that block's well made. We're all good. But suddenly Ertz sits it down and there's no window to make that throw. Daniel suddenly has to come back to the other side. So he flips his hips and he starts looking that way. And what he can see is this guy starting to get up, Eckler on the floor. So he thinks, okay, this guy is now right in my window and ready to attack me. I need to bail out of this and turn this into a positive and avoid a sack. So that is why, to me, it looks like he takes off scrambling rather than thinking, I can throw this ball. Now, obviously, as Nick said, maybe on first down or second down, you want him to keep his eyes up and think, I can hit this, or maybe even I can reset back to De'Ami Brown now that he's got free. But he's also a guy that's incredibly fast. It's third down. He just needs to pick up the first down, and he's probably thinking, I can just run for this. I'm fast enough, and I can turn this into a big play, and even gets a nice little block from De'Ami Brown there and is able to turn this up. Tight walks down the sideline nicely, picks up an extra 5 or 10 yards out of that. Not a bad play.
Props to Eckler, by the way, man. He's blocking his ass off this game, huh? He's doing a really good job.
Yeah, he had some real nice blocks in this game. So this is another one where I thought,
I gotta ask you, what'd you think of Cliff's play calls for this game?
Yeah, initially I didn't like it at all. When I've gone back and watched the All-22, I actually saw, and I sort of charted the offense down, I actually saw the semblance of different packages that they were trying. So I'm not as negative on it now as I was. Now, if we get to week 10, 12, 15, and it's still just a few different packages, then I'd be worried or I'd be very critical. But I think when it's week one and it's a completely new regime, you've got almost an entirely new roster, you're trying to figure out what you're good at, who does what well. And so they had a couple different packages that were quite nice. They had a gap scheme run package that was really nice. They had the read option package worked quite well. We'll get to a bit of that. So they had some nice packages that they were setting stuff up, but they didn't dive fully into those packages and really evolve them. And you would hope that as the season progresses, they start figuring out, okay, this package actually works for our players. Then it becomes a little bit more obvious what their identity is. So I was very critical coming out of the game, but I thought after watching the All-22, I could see what they were trying to do at least. Right, we are running a little bit low on time, so I'm going to skip this one. This was just a pass where I didn't feel like he had too many options. There was a nice little route here that he maybe could have thrown, but just as he was about to throw a little choice
just
route
get to the strip sack.
We'll get to that. He gets pressured up the middle, does a nice job resetting. You can see again, he's not just taking off running, he's looking to deliver a throw. Doesn't really like any of his options. Ertz kind of comes open late, but again, that pressure kind of arrives. And that's when he kind of feels like he has to take off running. And this is the one where Winfield gets him in the head a little bit and he loses his helmet. I don't know if I've seen a quarterback lose his helmet quite so often. You could see it throughout that first quarter. He was kind of taking it off after every play, like trying to adjust it. And I'm like, surely that's a preseason thing. You'd sort that out. But
I actually love that last play. Even though he got hit at the end, I like the fact that he was buying time, head downfield, going through his progressions. There's a lot to like from that play. Even the fact that he was elusive and got downfield. Mark, another thing, the big debate on Twitter, social media, is whether or not the wide receivers were getting open and whether Jaden Daniels was throwing it to them. What are your thoughts on that? What was your takeaway from that? Were the wide receivers getting open, in your opinion?
Yeah, the outside of Terry McLaurin and maybe Zach Ertz, the receivers weren't like creating tons and tons of separation. But the game plan wasn't necessarily like it wasn't too aggressive. It was quite conservative in terms of what they were trying to do, mainly because they were worried about what Todd Bowles was going to bring at Jaden Daniels, and they wanted to give him quick and easy options to get out of those pressures rather than trying to make him throw the ball 40 yards down the field every play. So that limits what the impact receivers can have in terms of getting open quickly. So yeah, I don't think the receivers were great outside of Terry McLaurin had some plays. But yeah, I don't think the receivers were great, but it was the kind of game where they would have less impact because of the style that they were trying to do to deal with the blitzes. So this was the one I saw on Twitter. We'll just quickly go over this. They motion to 4 strong, so the running back motions out of the backfield. Let me show the diagram again. So we'll get to this again. You see that helmet come off one more time.
Hey, Robert, while he's down with stuff, I have a question for you. You posed a question to Mark about Cliff Kingsbury and his offense. I'm curious, clearly from my perspective, Cliff Kingsbury was kind of calling a more conservative offense to kind of protect and make sure Jaden Daniels was, insulated in some safe, easy throws. Did you like that offensive philosophy, or do you think you should have took more shots in the second half? What are your thoughts about that?
I think the game dictates that, right?
Okay.
The adjustments you make dictate that. You start the game that way with safe, good throws to get them in rhythm, and then depending on how the game flows, you got to take shots. You got to stretch the field. I'm not a big fan of Zacchaeus. I thought he held us back a little bit this week. Not his best game. He did have a good preseason, but you definitely get more aggressive depending on what the game flow is.
Yeah, and Mark, I guess I don't know if you're going to touch on it either. I thought like that was a great play where Terry McLaurin was screaming open on that deep shot where Jaden Daniels missed him with the overthrow. I'm just disappointed they didn't go dip into that well one more time and do it again in the second half. Like, did they dial that up again, or was that something that happened again, or they just kind of stayed away from it? What happened there?
They didn't run that specific play again. There was a shot that Jaden missed that I'll get to shortly. This was the strip sack that Nick was talking for. So
Nick's pumped.
yeah, so I don't like this play call, and I'll get into why. You've got running back in the backfield. You've got trips to the right here, and they motion the back out to give them a 4 strong look. Now, typically, when you get 4 receivers to one side of the field, you use a route combination that involves all 4 receivers in the same combination. And sometimes, a lot of the time, it's just a screen where you have 3 guys blocking for 1. But you can get some other concepts with 4 guys. But what Kingsbury does here is kind of weird. You've got a basic drive concept, and out here you've got a kind of curl or a spot on a wheel. So essentially, he splits his 2 receivers on the right side of the field into 2 different concepts, which kind of makes it quite confusing as to where Daniels should be going with the ball, whether he should be starting outside, whether he should be going inside. So this is a play where people thought he should be hitting these crossing routes over the middle. You see here the motion Eckler out. They get a linebacker over there. It's kind of a nice.
Before this goes, just to kind of be on Cliff's side here, if you're going kind of like this 4 strong look a little bit, I do kind of like that it will keep his eyes to one side of the field. It also stretches the defense, and that's Cliff. Like, it's that horizontal rate of just stretching you as wide as possible. So I can see why. I agree with you. I would rather probably get Eckler onto the other side where you can kind of see that wheel over there. But
I don't have any issue with them going 4 strong. My issue is
the 2 different concepps, like within
the 2 different concepts on the same side of the field. Because you'll see it here. You get that kind of man indicator, and with the linebacker following Eckler outside. And so what I think happens here is when Jaden Daniels snaps the ball, I think he's working outside here the entire time. I think his eyes, it kind of looks like maybe he looks to Ertz here, and you would think just throw that there. You've got this so much space over the middle of the field, hit this and run. And I think that's where everyone thinks this is where this ball should go. And maybe it is. Maybe he should be going to that. Like if you're just running a basic drive concept normally, that's exactly where you go with that ball. But I think he's actually looking out here, and he's seeing this linebacker
again.
No, I think this was second down. I think they had the strip sack on second down. So you see, you see Zacchaeus, kind of influences this linebacker. You've got Eckler on this wheel route. So I think he's looking out here for this wheel route. And you can see at this point, Eckler's winning this, that he's even. The linebacker's no way going to keep up with Eckler down the sideline. This is potentially a touchdown because this corner's coming inside and it's one-on-one out here. So I think that's where Daniels is looking to go with the ball. But because you've got these two split concepts, you do have two guys running wide open over the middle of the field into a lot of space. And now it could be that Cliff teaches him to read this inside out and Daniels misses it. It could be that Cliff teaches him to read it outside in and Daniels does the right thing, trying to wait for this. And then unfortunately the pressure arrives and he can't really do a huge amount about that.
Do you think he could rip this right here? Is this possibly the top of his draw? I can't.
Yeah. I think what happens is because Wiley gets beaten inside, I think he gets influenced by this, and we'll go to the end zone angle. So I think what happens is, Wiley gets beat inside, and so he feels like he has to reset. He can't quite throw that ball as he wants to, so he has to reset. And then unfortunately, because he's backing away from this inside pressure, Lucas gets beat on the outside, and then he gets hit by this pretty bad hit. And ball security, obviously, you want to see him two hands on the ball when he's moving in the pocket.
The way we charted this, like just to talk about, I guess, O-line play here, like the way that we charted this was, yes, you have Wiley losing. And I don't think, can you go back to the beginning again? I just want to see like the depth of where Lucas loses. I think we probably downgraded him here. Yeah, downgrade there. And then, but again, it's his blind side in that he can't step up. So he can't really go anywhere. And he does back into the blitz against the fumble. But for me to play devil's advocate here, and again, you're 100% right. Like we don't know if he's telling him to go outside to in or whatnot. But if you go back to the beginning, like that man indicator of you got the linebacker clearing out, and the second you see that linebacker clearing out, again, I don't know if it's a second or third down. If it's third, you got to hit the drive.
Second.
Okay.
On the bottom. Yeah.
So second, I understand it more. But for me, obviously in a perfect world, I'd want him to see that linebacker kind of clear out, know that with the concept you've got. And if you go back to kind of the beginning, you'll see Ertz has a massive kind of leverage advantage that we talked about. It's tough to see it here, but in the NFL, like that amount of room there is a lot of room for someone. And just that one step, he should know that Ertz is going to be wide open. And so once they kind of don't have anybody in the middle of the field and you already know it's man, I think you just have to hit this. And if you want to be greedy, you can hit Luke McCaffrey as well. But yeah, that's me, again, being the negative guy and playing a little bit devil's advocate.
No, that's good analysis. I agree with that. Question for the group. Go ahead. Robert.
So the person that really misses on this outside of Wiley is Zacchaeus. It's a pick. He doesn't execute the pick correctly. If you look at it, he runs the route too shallow. Right? If he executes the pick, it's a throw right now.
Yeah.
Which helps, because you got 29 already driving inside to Zacchaeus. It helps right now. It helps clear the picture up to release the ball right now.
He'd already be a step ahead. It's a good call. I can see that. My question to the group, guys, all of you stepping into your knowledge, the offensive line, I mean, there was a lot of criticism for them as well. I thought they played decently. Like, what's your overall assessment from the offensive line? Was it really a turnstile? Was it really Jaden Daniels kind of making chicken salad out of what was going on with the offensive line there? So I don't know what to jump in on that.
I guess I'll start as I've been talking about the offense. I think we know what Andrew Wiley is at this point, and you have to kind of deal with that. And he's he's not as bad as most fans make him out to be, but he's also not very good.
Yeah.
Cornelius Lucas, I think, is going to get replaced by Brandon Coleman as soon as Brandon Coleman is 100% healthy and ready to play full snaps. Allegretti had some ups and downs. He battled really hard, and for the most part, he kept guys in front of him, but he did surrender some pressure, getting pushed back. Cosme, I thought, played well. He just had a few mental errors, really. And Biotish was kind of similar. Kind of how you would expect. The two guys that are most well paid, the Cosme and Biotish, were pretty decent. The new free agent addition, Allegretti, was up and down, but okay. And I thought Coleman had some nice plays when he got mentally right. We saw that mental error earlier where he missed that free runner. But again, that was to attack a rookie left tackle, so it was tough on him, but he did make the mistake. Yeah, and I think in the run game, Andrew Wiley does a pretty decent job. I think it's just pass protection is it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I kind of completely agree with that. I think it was better than what I initially thought it was going to be. Allegretti kind of stepping in finally in a starter role. He's kind of hasn't really played all that many snaps in his career. I thought he played fine. And again, offensive line, you just can't be awful. You can't be it's kind of a weak link unit, so they can attack the weakest link, which right now I think is Wiley in terms of pass protection. And you just can't be awful. We saw, if you watch the Sunday night game, that poor left tackle for the Rams was, I felt so bad for him. I mean, he was getting whooped in 1 second every single time by Hutch, and you just can't be that bad where it completely destroys your offense. I thought they were just okay, which should be enough right now. And yeah,
makes sense.
Do we have time to talk about the other sack real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
Okay, so the second sack, I just wanted to show that again, he dealt with the pressure really well, and I didn't really have either sack on Daniels because for me it looked like he was working outside on that first one. This was the second sack. This is a blown protection. So what you have is, I think this is Levante David here joining the rush up the middle, and I believe Austin Eckler is probably responsible for him.
We put this on that as well.
Yeah, I can't be 100% certain what their protection rules are. That's what it looked like to me. But it's a play action pass, and so sometimes when you see a play action pass, you have the tight end and the running back both block the edge. So that's kind of where I think Eckler is. You can see he's kind of looking outside the entire time after the play action fake. So I that's where I kind of think he's thinking he needs to go, and he's thinking that these guys are all going to slide down and pick this up. But before the snap on the TV broadcast, you could actually hear Tyler Biotish make it called Bob, which typically for offensive line means back on backer or running back on linebacker. So that would be an adjustment that you would want, running back to go and pick up the linebacker and let the tackle handle the defensive end. So yeah, you get to this point where Levante David is almost at the line of scrimmage and working into the backfield, and you've currently got your tight end Ben Sinnott blocking the edge. And I think what happens here is that Eckler doesn't get that adjustment call from Biotish because, as I say, on a lot of play action passes, you'll see the tight end and the running back both block the edge and the offensive line all slide down, and you'd see Cornelius Lucas here blocking Levante David. But you can see, obviously, Lucas is obviously expecting to block the edge. You've got Sinnott out here, and you can see Eckler's eyes are clearly out here and not looking at Levante David. But then as he releases through, you can see a light bulb moment here. Oh shit! I got my guy going through the B gap here.
Whoops! Yeah, exactly.
The best thing to look at when you're watching kind of protection stuff, if you want to try to figure out who's at fault, usually the guy with his head towards the quarterback is usually at fault.
That's hilarious.
It's not a golden rule, but it usually, if that guy's looking back, same with kind of the palms up, it's not great.
Yeah. So yeah, the ultimate part of this is to say there's a busted protection here. Levante David comes free, and Jaden Daniels again does really well. He avoids Levante David, but by the time he gets out of that, you've got two edge rushers closing in on him, and there's not a lot that he can do about that. So
Mark, I do have a quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So the 2-on-1, right? So you blocking two guys, or two guys are blocking one. I've never understood it from a lineman perspective. Obviously, you got two guys blocking one. Isn't one of the guys, the inside guy, should peel or look inside once he successfully passes? Like, he should pass once Biotis and the guard Cosme take Vita Vea. He takes him to Vita Vea. He should redirect his head, right? So he should look inside, interior, right? So once you know successfully that he's successfully passed him off, isn't there a slight peek inside the?
Who you mean?
Not that it would have
Eckler
made a difference, but
No, Biotis,
you think
should
Biotis
kind of like
sliding
once he
across?
passes him off, look back to David, which I would say
Yeah,
yes. But he, like you said, the Bob call he was giving, I would assume in his mind he thinks that Eckler's got it, sort of.
Yeah. So usually, what you try to do in these play action situations is you have a full line slide towards one side to sell a run that's like a zone run to that side, and you have the back and the tight end pick up. You use these guys to protect against the good pass rusher on the edge. You keep 2-on-1 to do that. So you would have everyone sliding in. Now Biotis makes that adjustment call, so they're not all sliding, and you can see that these guys aren't fully sliding. So you would think possibly once, as Rob said, when you pass that guy off, you would possibly be looking back and trying to pick that up. But I think because he made that Bob call, he's assuming that Eckler should be able to pick this up. And it's not like they don't have enough bodies in here to pick this up. Like, first off, this is Vita Vea, so you typically want two bodies on him at all times.
He is two humans in and of himself.
Yeah,
exactly. And secondly, they've got enough bodies over here. They've got 4 guys to block 3 defenders. They should be able to pick this up. It's just a case of, I guess, either Eckler didn't quite get the call when Biotis made that adjustment, or Cornelius Lucas has made a real error by still trying to block the edge and not sliding down and picking up that linebacker. So my guess is it's probably more on Eckler, and he just didn't get the call. But you never really know without being in that room.
Yeah, I think I remember that play. It was funny because you could hear, I think it was Jaden saying 54, 54, 54, and then 54 is in his face in like a second. And so yeah, there was definitely some sort of mix up there.
I hate it when that happens.
Well, I've got tons more, but we've run
Save
over
them
time.
for your save them for your Substack.
Yeah, exactly right. So let's kind of bring it on home a little bit. It's 5:42. People got some dinner to come up a little bit, but gentlemen, that was fantastic. We got a lot of positive feedback on social media. We had 1,350 live views during our show. Great insight, Mark and Nick. I love working with you guys. Robert, that was fantastic. You're on. I love your insight. You're always welcome on the show. I'm sure Doug told you that, but you're always welcome every Tuesday.
This isn't my show, but we're going to need him here every film break.
Please.
I'm down.
Absolutely. It's our show for sure, guys. So every Tuesday, 4:30, Commanders Film Room will be breaking down the film. Look at the Giants game next week. Fellas, we got to win that game. It's going to be real ugly next week if we don't have that win.
If I come back here with more defensive busts on that game, it's not going to be great.
All right.
I won't be here if they're coming back.
All right, so guys, definitely check us out. Everyone's tagged on the Twitter feed that we have. Give us your insight, give us your feedback. If you have any debates on the film, hit up Mark and Nick and let them know about it. Other than that, guys, have a great week. Take care, guys. Peace.
Thanks, y'all.